Assalamu alaikum dear students, welcome back to Reading Skills in Communication Skills course. I am Jazeb Jahan and I'll be teaching you the rest of the reading skills which we are talking about in this video, because in previous video we've already talked about scanning and skimming. So here we'll be talking about intensive reading and extensive reading. Apart from that, in this lecture we will have material based on these types, SQ3R formula or method that is used for reading, faulty reading habits that we can remove while we're reading something, and how to improve the reading skills. So I hope this lecture is quite easy enough for you to understand, because I have tried to simplify it as much as it is possible. Now continuing with the types of reading. So we have extensive and intensive reading. Extensive and intensive reading refer to approaches to language learning and teaching. From the names you can probably deduce that they both celebrate reading as an integral part of language learning. So in order to learn a language, or in order to read from the books, we used extensive and intensive reading. Apart from skimming and scanning, both of these types also contribute or add to our language learning proficiency or our reading comprehension. So we employ these four skills, four types: skimming, scanning, extensive reading and intensive reading. First of all, we should know what extensive reading is. Brown explains that extensive reading is carried out to achieve a general understanding of the text. So just like we had global listening in listening section, that we get the main theme, we get the main gist of something. In the same way, we get the gist of the material from extensive reading. So that surely means that we are not reading the text word by word, or we're not paying attention to any single word in the reading material. Rather, we're reading to get the main idea or a general understanding. Long and Richard identify extensive reading as occurring when students read large amounts of high interest material, usually out of class, concentrating on meaning, reading for gist, and skipping unknown words. So in this, you do not need to open the dictionaries time and again. You just pay attention to the your favorite part in a text or a part that is of high interest. So this is usually done out of the class. This is not done with the course books. So extensive reading is primarily done for the sake of play, for the sake of killing your time, for the sake of spending the boredom period, or for the sake of your own love for learning. So many people are bookworms, they're interested in reading books. It is said that the book is always the best friend ever. So those people who are ferocious readers, who are all the time reading, or who have much interest in reading, they are very much into extensive reading. So extensive reading, which involves learners reading text for enjoyment and to develop general reading skills, it refers to reading for joy. So reading for joy or reading for play, both are the same thing. This approach supports reading as much material in your target language as humanly possible. This way it supports claim you will be exposed to the widest range of vocabulary and grammatical structures. All of this is supposed to make you a better language learner and help you on the way to fluency or smoothness. Primarily, extensive reading is done in your native language, because it is a language that you already know and you are familiar with, and that is very much easy for you to understand. However, we can employ extensive reading in second language as well, the language we are learning. For example, here in our case, we can also have extensive reading in English language. So not only we get the pleasure of fun of the text, but also we are learning languages. Yes, we do not pay attention to all the words, but at the same time we are learning certain new expression or certain new words that makes us read better and makes us fluent. Here we have characteristics of extensive reading. So there are certain characteristics. A variety of material on a range of topics is available. Then students select what they want to read, because this is not incumbent upon you, or this is not a forced material for you. So the students, or you guys, you select anything that you like to read. The purpose of reading are usually related to pleasure, information and general understanding. So it is not for the sake of some examination. This is only done for the sake of pleasure, for the sake of spending or killing your time to get information or to get general understanding. Reading is its own reward. So whatever you are reading, you're reading intensively or extensively, reading will always pay you back. For example, I read a lot and I made certain notes on the basis of those readings. And now when I am recording these videos and I have created my own channel, all those materials that I even learned or read for my own pleasure, they were added to those videos and they helped a lot. And another example I would like to quote, that when I was studying in federal government school, so the English book by Oxford publication, that was quite a good book in a way, that they used to give us extracts of the novels. So the climax scene of each novel was given in those books as a short story. So that like created a curiosity in me to learn or read those novels afterwards. And afterwards I went through those novels just because I had some idea about them. So reading has its own reward. Reading materials are well within the linguistic competence of the students in terms of vocabulary and grammar. So whatever material we choose for our pleasure reading is according to our linguistic competence, our vocabulary and grammar. For example, if we talk about small kids, they would be reading smaller stories of Tarzan, of like Marvel heroes, or such tales which are related to the kids, or comics. So in those they don't need to be having high grammar or vocabulary, and their linguistic competence is according to the books there, or I would say like the novels or the stories of Tarzan, they are according to the linguistic competence of the kids. So the more older they get, the increase or the better vocabulary and grammar is seen in the material they are reading. Unfortunately, nowadays our students are prone towards mobile phones and they prefer reading online, they prefer reading on screen, on mobile phone, which is not a really very good way. The best thing is to have a book in hand that helps you a lot. And because of mobile phone and such distractors, we have lost the reading passion, and that is almost seen absence in the newer generation. Then reading is individual and silent. So you do not read for others, you read for your own self, like in extensive reading. So extensive reading is done primarily only for you. You are spending your time, you're killing your time, you're getting information for your own sake, and it is silent. You're not being verbose in that, you're not being verbal, you're not vocalizing the words. So this is a silent reading, and this is a reading primarily or specifically for your own sake. Text must be interesting for extensive reading, because you're reading them for pleasure or fun. Since extensive reading is done for longer periods of time, you must take care to select texts that hold your attention and keep you coming back for more, hour after hour. For example, if you like a novel and the novel is so catching that you cannot think of missing any episode of it, and you find time to read it time and again. So this is always depending upon the material, whether it is interesting or not. If you are having a boring story with you, you will hardly read 2 or 3 pages and then you will never be touching that book again. So, like Francis Bacon says that some books are to be tasted and some to be swallowed and some to be chewed and digested. So, the boring books are like the ones that either we have to swallow or those that we only taste. Just we go through the contents and some of the reading and then we feel that we should not chew or digest the book. In this way, text must be level appropriate because you must be able to understand a higher percentage of a text you begin with. The same thing that I have said in the last slide, that the text should be according to the mental capabilities or linguistic competence of the reader. So, kids will like the storybooks, the older readers, they will like the books according to their own mentality or mental capacity. So, level appropriateness is quite necessary when we are talking about extensive reading. Text must be of moderate length. Specifically, a text should be on average at least 15 to 30 pages long. Texts of this length are long enough to fully develop an idea or narrative. For example, there can be certain books or novels that once you start, you do not close the book until you end it. For example, there have been so many books I have read, and for example, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I started it and I ended it, so I did not want to miss any part of it. And again, if you miss some part of it for the sake of other distractions, or you need to stop your reading, then the pleasure is lost, the fun of reading is lost. So, the text should be not long enough, it should be 15 to 30 pages, again depending upon the interest of the reader and the capacity of the text to charm the reader. So, you can even read the longer text, but 15 to 30 pages are quite enough when you are doing extensive reading. Here we have certain materials that we can use for our extensive reading. For example, we have bilingual books, a book that is in some other language we know and in our native language too. In this way, we can understand that book easily. Monolingual books that are written in our own native language, for example, any storybook or newspaper or something, or magazines that are written in our language. So, we are prone more to that. We read magazines for the sake of fun. For example, if when you go to the barber shop and there are certain magazines, or if you are visiting a doctor's clinic, you find magazines or certain digests there. You start reading them to spend your time or to kill your time. Comic books are for your extensive reading. You just amuse yourself. Stories are there to amuse you. You're not reading for some examination. You're reading for your own extensive reading, your pleasure, your fun. Novels and digests, also these are comparatively longer texts, but again if they charm you and you have your interest in that, then it doesn't matter they are beyond 30 pages, you read them. And newspaper, it's done for skimming, scanning, intensive and extensive reading. It is done for these 4 things. You can have skimming in it, you can scan through it, you can have extensive reading, you can have intensive reading. So, extensive reading in newspaper is that you're reading sports, then you jump to your favorite page 3 section, and then from there you jump to highlights of national or international news. So, all these are found in newspaper and they are best means of extensive reading. Coming to intensive reading. Intensive reading, sometimes called narrow reading, may involve students reading selection by the same author of several texts about the same topic. When this occurs, content and grammatical structures repeat themselves and students get many opportunities to understand the meaning of the text. For example, if you're reading communication skills, so there are plenty of books available, there are plenty of slides available. So, it depends upon you that which author you follow or which topic you follow. For example, if you are reading classroom management, or if you are reading history of English literature, so a good student or good reader consults more than one book. He has certain other options to You can go online, you can download for yourself research papers, you can find so many other books on the same topic from your school or university or college library. So they are there to help you or facilitate you. So it is a good opportunity for the students to get better content or better grammatical structures, because not all the writers are alike, everyone is writing differently. So you get to know about different novel grammatical structures from your intensive reading. It involves learners reading in detail with specific learning aims and tasks. It refers reading carefully of an exact understanding of text necessary for contracts, legal documentation, application forms. So whenever you are filling some legal contract or legal documentation, or you are writing an application form for further studies or an application process of scholarship, so you have to make an intensive reading. So in intensive reading, you read everything, you do not feel like missing any material out of it. If we are sitting in examination, so the headings before every question or question paper, they require your intensive reading, because you need to know what sort of explanation is given there, or what kind of a material is there that you need to write in. So this approach helps language learners really understand the language and grammar structure or syntax. The proponents of this method use a range of exercises to complement the reading itself. So this approach helps the learners really understand the language in a better way. You understand grammar's language grammar, you understand language comprehension, syntax, semantics, morphology, and rest of all the components. So when you are reading very carefully, you get to know all these things, you come across all these things, and you have a time for reading, because you are paying attention. So while paying attention, you can read so many things using your intensive reading. We have certain characteristics of intensive reading. So it is usually classroom based, because students are more prone to read the classroom text or the books based on your syllabus, and then reader is intensively involved in looking inside the text, because you have to read between the lines, not only the lines that are written, but also you read between the lines from the book that is in hand. Students focus on linguistics or semantic details of reading. You are paying attention to the linguistic details, you are learning about language, and as well as the meaning. So semantics is concerned with the meaning. You're not only learning the language, but also getting the meaning of something, and at times you get certain novel meaning. So the word I have just spoken, novel, it means new. You must be familiar with the novel, a book, a story in a huge bulk or in a huge size, but novel also means something new. So in this way you get more semantic details from the text. Students focus on surface structure details such as grammar and discourse markers. So you tend to know the grammar and discourse markers. So discourse markers are those like specific words that a reader or a character mostly uses, so which makes their discourse different from rest of the other people. Students identify key vocabulary, so they know the major terms related to the book they are studying. For example, if you are studying sociolinguistics, then you will be knowing about sociolinguistic key terms. If you are reading education, then you will be familiar with the word like thesis, teaching practice, paradigm, pedagogy. So you know all those things which are key words for a certain subject. Students may draw pictures to aid them, such as in problem solving method. So pictures can add to your intensive reading. The way I will be using pictures in this slide when I will be talking about faulty reading habits, so that is a good way to understand, because illustration helps us a lot. Texts are really careful and thoroughly are read carefully and thoroughly again and again. definitely if you are studying some textbook, you need to read that again and again. And every time you read a text, you get something new. So it is not okay or necessary that if we have once gone through the text, if I read a drama 10th times, because I've already studied it 9 times already, so even that 10th time will be giving me something new. Aim is to build more language knowledge rather than simply practice the skill of reading. So it is not only reading but also knowing the language itself, and seen more commonly than extensive reading in classroom. Since it is classroom based, so we normally do not use extensive reading in class, rather we use intensive reading in that environment. And where do we use intensive reading? We use intensive reading in news articles if we are preparing for certain general knowledge examination. We use intensive reading in research articles if we are planning to conduct research, or if we are interested in people's research, what they have written. We use it in our syllabus, in our textbooks. We use intensive reading in official letters, because we have to be very careful while reading and writing official letters. And there's so many other stuff which is requiring intensive reading, where we need to be reading it as a whole and understand the text. So we cannot get the gist out of it like we do in extensive reading. We need to be reading everything, every minute detail. That is why it is called narrow reading, because we are focusing attention on each and everything. For example, if you're reading a poem for the sake of your examination, so you're not only reading the text, you're also reading what the poet wants to say. You're also reading what the poet has said, poet has not said through the lines he has spoken, like reading between the lines. You also read about the history of the poet, the environment in which he is writing, the themes, and you have an analysis of the structure of the poem. You refer to the poetic devices that are used in the poem. So in this way, you are not only reading the text, but also there are so many other things rather than the text you are paying attention to. Now we have SQ3R formula. SQRRR or SQ3R. So it is a reading comprehension method named for its 5 steps: survey, question, read, recite, and review. So recite here is also interchanged with recall. The method was introduced by Francis P. Robinson, an American education philosopher, in his book published in 1946 named as Effective Study. So this is a method that we use for reading, or if we do not use it, we should start using it before starting any book, whether that is of syllabus or whether that we are using for extensive reading. It not only saves the time but also creates the interest of a reader in the subject. I always say that the students should be asking the teacher about the importance of the subject they are studying, because that creates interest in students about the subject. So in this way, this formula, this method also helps in reading or knowing something before we start reading it. So first of all, survey. Survey is an initial research on the basis of reader for the book or text that is going to study. So through survey, you come to know that what kind of book this is, or what is the rating of the book, what is the acclaimed reward of the book from the audience, from the readers, or what is the most interesting thing in the book, what is the most liked or appreciated thing in the book. So all these things come under survey. You can get these surveys from your friends, from your teachers, and especially on internet, because you find very good surveys on Google Books when you are getting information about a certain topic or a certain book. So that gives you the survey in shape of the comments of the people or in shape of stars. So if the book has 1 star, it means the book is not that much acclaimed. If the book has 5 stars, it means the book is worth reading. So that will tell you whether you should go for the book or not. Or in case if it is a book for your intensive reading, then it helps you get knowledge prior to read the book. So when you have some summary or knowledge in your mind, it is easier for you to understand. For example, as just I said that I read certain extracts of the novel in my school age, so I was very much influenced towards reading the whole text. So that helped a lot. So that was a kind of survey. Now question is second phase. When you're reading the survey or when you're going through the survey, there comes certain questions in your mind that what could be the climax of the book, or how could this character be a protagonist or the main character of the book, or what is the new theory that is propounded by this author. There could be certain questions. So the answer to those questions is very much there in your book. So you start reading the book. So reading is the third stage. You read the text and you get the answer to the questions, and the reading of the text is very much close to the survey you gone through or you went through, and then you recite it or recall it. So you think about the book, you use the quotations from the book, you use the good dialogues from the book, or you use the information that was given in the book. And then just like you were reading the survey of other people on the book, now you can write your own review, which is to be read by other people since you have gone through the text. This is just like watching a movie. We get the trailers of the movie on television, we watch them, so that is survey, or we get the news of the popularity of the movie or a rating on Rotten Tomatoes and so many other websites. Then we have certain questions by looking at the trailer or official trailers of the movie. Then we watch the movie and then we get the answers to the questions. Then we recall that. So recalling means you watch your favorite scene from the movie and then you are able to review it. You can recommend it to some people, your friends, that it is worth watching or not. So in the same way, the method SQ3R works for reading of the books. So first survey, like it says, scan the text and pay attention to layout, chapters, sections, graphs, pictures, highlighted words. So you have a basic understanding. Then you have a question that ask yourself, what are you already knowing about the text, or what is your goal, or you try to understand what is the author conveying, or what does he want to convey. Reading is the actual reading of the text, and reciting is repeating that aloud or asking yourself questions or making a summary of it. And reviewing is that reading the relevant parts or going through the notes or questions again, or recommending it to someone. So this method is quite useful when we are reading something or when we are starting something. It can be applied on your extensive and intensive both types of reading. Then we have faulty reading habits. We have certain habits that we do not avoid, hence we are lacking in reading. So if we are not good readers, we can never be good writers. Or if we need to be good reader, we need to avoid these faulty reading habits, which are finger movement, head movement, distractors, noisy environment, subvocalization, vocalization, reading each word, regression, and reading in bad light. So finger movement is moving your finger through the text. Some people have this bad habit with them. Whenever they're reading a text, they're moving their fingers along, or they are having a pen in their hand which is moving across all the lines. So this is such a habit that consciously tires your brain, and you feel that something is constantly moving in front of your eyes. It creates headache, it creates boredom, and you're very soon bored of the material. So we should not move our fingers along with the running text. Our eyes are quite enough for the fact. So if you develop your eyes in order to, like if you make a practice with your eyes and replace your eyes with your finger, you can read faster and you will not find an extra burden on your sight. Head movement is when you're looking at the book, but at the same time you are looking sideways, you're not paying concentration. So, some people when they are reading the book, they are moving the complete head with the line, just like we are writing on typewriter. So, if you have ever used a typewriter, you move your head from left to right and then again from left to right. So, in this way we are tiring our brain again, or if we are looking at sideways, we are looking at people around or television. So, this is the thing that again tires our brain. We feel that we are exhausted. So, we need to avoid head movement. Distractors are your mobile phones, television, people around who are not much interested in reading. So, such things create a disturbance in your reading skill and reading speed as well. Because in last video we discussed about reading speed, and I gave you an interesting website for your reading speed. So, you can again watch the video and see the link of the website given in the slides. So, that website will tell you your exact reading speed, and if you feel that it is not enough, because results are also given in the end. So, you can develop your reading skill, and you should keep taking your exam from that site till you become a proficient reader. So, we need to avoid distractions, especially the mobile phone. Noisy environment is very harmful to your reading, because you cannot read when you are surrounded by so many people. For example, if you have just turned on a washing machine where you are sitting, after some time you will get used to of that noise, but when that will be switched off, you will feel some pleasure or some peace that you receive through your ear. So, now in this way we need to be sitting at the most silent spot somewhere. So, this is alliteration, silent spot somewhere. So, you need to be sitting at certain place, and then you need to concentrate, because that is the best way you can concentrate on a book. Now, and we are now in a bad habit that if we are reading each and every word that is written in front of us. For example, if you read word by word, chances are you will. Now, in this way we can read slower. If we keep reading like this, then we are reading slower. But if you try to pay attention, you can read the first whole line in one single glance. If you read word by word, chances are you will read slower than if you were to read larger sections of text at a time. So, this is a better way of reading, that you are not paying attention to a single word, but rather you are paying attention to the chunks. Regression is coming back, reverse. You must have noticed that sometimes when we are reading something, we come back, we read the line or paragraph again because we are not understanding that. The reason is those faulty reading habits. Because of them, because of pollution, noise pollution, because of the distractions or head or finger movement, we are not understanding the gist of something. And you must have noticed that sometimes the text is too easy, but we are unable to comprehend because we are mentally lost. So, we come back to the beginning of the line that we could not understand. This is regression. So, if you regress 4 to 5 times while reading a text, you can get to know that you are slowing down, your speed is slowing, and in this like if you had not regressed, you could read the whole page instead of coming back to the first line again and again. Reading in bad lights, reading in candlelight or reading in torchlight, that is harmful for your eyes, and that does not give you enough reading. Nowadays we sometimes read with our mobile torches. That may help you in order to know what you want to read, but that is again not a good thing. The only good thing about this picture is that the light is coming from the left side of this baby. So, he is having a torch in his hand, that is bad thing, but the light coming from the left side is a good thing. So, light should always be coming from the left side of your book, even if you are reading under like a table lamp. You should make sure that light comes from the left, not from the right. How can we improve our reading skills? So, we can read in chunks, we can have contextual reading, we can have dedicated reading, we can meditate after we have read, or we can highlight the important stuff. Now try looking at these 3 sentences. Now if you are a good reader and if you look at the first sentence, only in one glance you can read the whole sentence. And if the second sentence is written in Urdu, that is not a big deal, like you have seen this phrase many times in stories. So that also requires your one glance. But coming to the third one, now you will notice that you are paying attention to each and every word. Primarily, research means to investigate and conduct a thorough search. It means that the subject may not be familiar with you, or you may not be familiar with the subject, vice versa. So in this way, you're not paying attention to the chunks because this is not your expertise. You've not gone through this language because this seems technical. The first and second sentence, they were quite easy because we have been reading those things. So our reading is because of our experience. If you go through a new word and you learn how to use it, the next time you will be very fluent in that. Just recall when you were initially reciting the Holy Quran, the best ever book. So while reading Holy Quran, there were so many words, or there are so many words on which we feel that we are not fluent. But by practicing, we develop our fluency. And next time we are not paying attention to a word, we are paying attention to a chunk. So in this way, if we are expert in research, so the third line may not be a big deal for you. So we need to be expert, we need to have experience in some particular language or certain words of a language. So our experience makes the fluency greater. Contextual reading is another important thing for your reading, because we are not all the time opening dictionaries, or we are not using them, because it slows down the speed or it consumes time. Sometimes the words or sentences themselves are telling us what is meant by them. For example, the VCR is obsolete. Everyone now uses DVDs to watch movies. And even I would say that even DVDs are obsolete. Everyone watches movies online or on YouTube. So obsolete certainly here means something that is outdated. Then the noise in the gym escalated when the basketball player scored the winning basket. Now this doesn't mean lessened or decreased, it means surely increased. The smell of the skunk was so vivid, we knew that it had to be near. So it means powerful, it cannot be used as weak or dull. So this is the way we can have contextual reading, and contextual reading saves time, and it gives us information about new words too without going through the dictionary. Dedicated reading means that you are reading by paying complete attention. You're not lost in distractors, you're not lost because of noise pollution, you're not paying attention to your environment, you're just studying. So here the picture is from some library. The girl who is reading a book is completely absorbed in that, both of them, because this is a particular place for them to read. There is no friend around, there is no television around, they are not holding their mobile phones. So library is the quietest place in some educational institute, and in such a place you just go to study. So that is a complete and proper environment of studying. So many people who are preparing for certain professional examinations or for their university examination, they most of the time found in libraries, because in library there are not they don't have distractors there. They have a proper environment in which they can easily study without distractors. Then meditating. Once you're done with the book, think of it. Once you have done with a paragraph, think of it if you have time, and then try using your critical ability. Are you satisfied with what reader has said? If yes, then carry on. If no, then note the thing somewhere. So your meditation works a lot, because you need to memorize the thing which was said in a particular sequence. So these were the references which are used, the books, the material, the websites, so you can visit them. And now what you have to do is you have to read extensively, intensively, you have to practice your skimming and scanning. Make sure that you avoid faulty reading habits, and you go to the solutions, you employ the solutions that I have given in the end. Those solutions will help you in reading faster. So thank you very much. This was from my side. I hope you understood the material. Please subscribe the channel. Thank you very much.